Hi, my name's Alessandro and welcome to my channel. So today's video is called Yass or Pass. The name of this video I got from one of my favorite content creators here on YouTube. Her name is Smokey Glow. The reason why I want to do this video is because some of my favorite type of videos to watch here on YouTube are anti-hauls. I love how they're just so sassy and not fake at all. You have people actually sharing their opinion on makeup releases and not just praising everything and saying they want it all. They just seem way more authentic, and I don't think you have sponsored content in anti-hauls. However, as much as I love watching anti-hauls, I don't just want to sit here and say how much I don't want makeup, because I am a makeup lover, and to be honest, I would like to buy some of these products if I wasn't broke and unemployed at the moment. So I'm just gonna use this time to just chit chat and talk about some makeup that I like and some makeup that I might not like and my opinions on that. So let's just get into this video and talk about some new releases. So I'm just gonna talk about all March releases basically, or the ones that stood out to me. So Too Faced is having several releases, but the one that stood out to me was their Diamond Light Bronzer. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, that's a really pretty highlight for deeper skin tones. But it's not, it's a bronzer. And looking at it, and looking at the swatches of it, it does not look like a appropriate bronzer for not even light or medium skin tones. It is way too orange for a bronzer. Like, you will look like a Oompa Loompa with this bronzer. However, on the darker skin tones, it actually looks really pretty as a highlight. So I think they should have just called this a highlight for deeper skin tones. Too Faced doesn't have the best history of catering to darker skin tones, so this would have been a better move for them if they would have just said this was a highlight. Okay, so moving on, Natasha Denona is coming out with a light diffusing highlighter blush. The swatches on this are so pretty. It almost looks wet. I feel like this would look really pretty on the skin as like a highlighter slash blush. I'm definitely interested in swatching it in stores, you know, once this whole quarantine is over, because the color is really pretty. I feel like it would look really nice on my skin tone. Okay, so next we have the Opulust Pat McGrath. To be quite honest, I feel like this is the perfect size for lip glosses and any like lip product. Like, you really do not need full-size lip products. Especially me, I don't need full-size lip products because I like playing around a lot with my makeup and, you know, trying out different colors. I found myself really appreciating the size of these lip products because, first of all, 25 bucks for 3, and they're probably gonna last me a long time because, like I said, I really rotate my lip products. Honestly, I only think it's a good idea to buy like full-size lip products if it's like your go-to or something that you use like every day, because lip products expire like in a year or two. They only last that long. And if you're like me that loves glosses and can't get enough, you shouldn't be getting full-size product. Natasha Denona is coming out with another set of the 5 mini eyeshadow palettes, and honestly, I've never picked one up because I'm skeptical that the quality is going to be different than like the full size. This didn't happen to me with Natasha Denona, but I actually got one of Pat McGrath's small eyeshadow palettes that she came out with. Not the quads, but she came out with like a 4 or 5 shade eyeshadow palette in like a really cheap packaging. So yeah, I was really excited to try out that smaller palette because it was way cheaper than any of her palettes, than her quads and like her Mothership palette. But the quality was different than the quads and her regular Mothership palette. So I'm a bit skeptical if these Natasha Denona 5-pan palettes are lower quality than her regular palettes. But the color story is really pretty. It's like a cool toned pink palette. I like the gray. I feel like I don't have like any matte grays, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, I don't think I get this because I already have a silver shimmer, a pink shimmer, and a soft pink matte eyeshadow, so I don't need to be buying an eyeshadow palette just for one shade, but still pretty. Okay, next I have the Makeup Revolution 4-shade eyeshadow palettes. These palettes, honestly, are adorable. The packaging looks sickening for Makeup Revolution. Like, this looks high-end. This looks something that, like, Pat McGrath could have come out. A little bit more extra, but yeah, they look pretty high quality. I wonder how heavy they are. I like when my like makeup packaging is heavy. It feels very luxe, so I wonder how this one feels in person. But yeah, the packaging is stunning. Now I wonder how the quality is. I feel like all these are shimmers, or mostly shimmers, so I wonder how the pigmentation is and how well they apply on the eyes. But just from a first glance, I'd wanna maybe swatch these and give them a chance. Okay, so next thing that caught my attention is these Becca Liquefied Light Highlighters, a liquid weightless highlighters for face and body that gives skin an all-over pearlized glow, transfer and water resistant. I'd really like to swatch these. I love a liquid highlighter. I love just liquid and cream products in general. I feel like that's what looks best on any skin type. I'm oily, so liquid products aren't technically supposed to work for me, but to be quite honest, it's what looks best on my skin. I love the look of just healthy, juicy skin, and I find that just like powders and mattifying products just takes the life out of your skin. It makes your skin look dull. I'd love to swatch these in person and see how they look on the skin. The shades are really pretty and seem to cover all skin types. They came out with 6 shades, so that's nice. Okay, so next thing I have is the Tom Ford Face and Eye Palette. It comes with 4 eyeshadows and I think 2 shadows for the face, a highlighter and a bronzer. I think that's what it is. Doesn't say. Out of all these palettes, only one is kind of catching my eye. The more pink golden palette is so pretty. I don't think I'd spend the money on this. I really don't need this. These colors are quite basic, and this is probably really expensive, but still pretty to look at. Just something that I wouldn't spend my money on. Okay, so next thing that got my attention is this new foundation that Benefit Cosmetics is coming out with. It's their Hello Happy Velvet Powder Foundation, the Soft Blur Foundation with SPF 15 and the Flawless Brightening Foundation. Say hello to 15 Happy Air Stick Foundation in 12 shades. So I'm a little confused, like, is it 3 types of foundations coming out in all this shades, or is it these 3 types of foundations in the 12 foundations coming out? Or like, are all these qualities in this foundation? Like, they're not being really clear. But first of all, this caught my attention because of how bad the shade range is and how they marketed this foundation. So they started off by putting the foundations like all lined up, and they started off with the darkest shade to light. So they started dark to light, basically to kind of fool the eye that there's more dark shades than there is light shades. Also swatched on the models, they have 5 shades on the darker arm, they have 4 shades in the medium arm, and they have 3 shades in the light arm. So they're basically saying we have more dark shades than light shades, when one of the shades is a little too bright for the darkest arm. So you technically only have 4. I think they were just trying to trick people by doing this and make it seem like they're doing a better job with their shade range, when To be quite honest, 12 shades is like awful. So foundation to look good on your skin, not only do you have to get your like proper shade, but you have to get like your proper undertone. And with that little amount of shades, that's like impossible for most people. And honestly, if you're gonna come out with any like complexion products, just come out with like a good 40 shades and really reach everyone's undertone. So it could be for everyone. I just really think this was one of the products that they didn't put a lot of effort in, and they did this like little scheme to try to trick people that it's a pretty good same shade range. Okay, so the next product that caught my eye is actually a palette from Morphe. It's their Suede collection. So what caught my eye out of this collection is the palette. I could care less about the brushes, like I don't need some colorful brushes. They also came out with some lip products and a continuing setting mist, but the palette is what really caught my eye. This looks like what the James Charles palette should have been instead of that mini they came out with. I saw in one of his videos that the reason why he came out with the mini and not with another totally different palette is because he wanted to create just one palette to do basically any look. Well, I think he did achieve that with his palette because, you know, he put all the neutral shades and all the rainbow shades. I feel like he could have came out just with a different palette with different textures like this palette. This has some really interesting glitters and, you know, different tones. I feel like this would have been a really pretty like sister to the OG James Charles palette, and honestly is like different but not too different than the palette, so they would have really complemented each other. Next thing that caught my eye is this release from Artist Couture. It's a Supreme Nudes eyeshadow palette with 12 shades, matte shimmers and metallics, and they're silk cream lipsticks, just nude lipsticks in 6 shades, and a diamond glow powder. What caught my eyes is the palette and the lipsticks. The colors in the lipsticks are really pretty and super nude. They almost look like cream concealers of how nude they are, like deeper stick concealers, but they look really pretty. I honestly don't have that many nudes, so maybe I'll swatch these in person and see how they look. I stick to glosses, so yeah, that's why I don't have a lot of nudes. This eyeshadow palette, although super basic, it's really pretty. And it's not super basic with a lot of extra repeat shades. It's just small and like looks that there was a lot of thought put into with the colors that are in. Gives me some Natasha Denona vibes for sure, like her smaller Love palette and like the Sunrise palette. Yeah, the shimmers in this palette look so pretty, very blinding. I like how it's a little bit cool toned and also warm toned at the same time. It's a perfect mix of both. I'd love to see how this looks in person. I don't think I'd pick this up because I kind of have my eye on the Natasha Denona nude palette because that has a couple of really cool toned gray black shades that I don't have, but I'd like to compare these two in person to see maybe which one I like more and which formula I like more too, because I've never tried Artist Couture formula. Okay, so next thing I have is this ColourPop Moulin collection. What caught my eye the most is the palette. I really like the color story. I like the golds and red in this palette. I wonder how the glitters perform, if they're just like pressed glitter or if it's like more of a metallic eyeshadow. I personally don't like glitters. I feel like they're very hard to work with and really hard to apply on the eye and can sometimes apply patchy. So I'm not sure how much of a fan I would be of the formula of this palette. I only have one ColourPop eyeshadow palette, which I don't use a lot. It's their rainbow palette. Again, the glitters in there are hard to work with. That's why I don't use it. And the mattes, they're like okay. but they're really not all that. I remember I got that palette specifically for the blues, and I had a little bit of trouble working with the blue. It was hard to build up. You really had to like just pat in a bunch of color to make it look pigmented. So it wasn't my favorite palette, and I really don't reach for it. So yeah, I think I'd pass on this, but the color story is really pretty. Next we have with Beautyblender coming out with another shade of Beauty Blenders, and I know they have a reason for why they changed the color, but like, let's face it, it's a beauty sponge. They all basically do the same thing. There's very little differences between like Real Techniques and Beauty Blenders. So the fact that they're just changing color, like, think of something new, do something, and stop wasting our time with just different colors, because at the end of the day, the pink washes off their original Beauty Blender. So, ooh, this is something that really got my attention, and I actually might buy, because this is just right up my alley. It's the Fenty Beauty Matchsticks Glow. Gives your complexion instant dewy radiance with a natural looking glass finish. It's translucent, non-sticky. Base glides over your skin, leaving a pearly iridescent glow without the glitter. Oh, that is everything I could want. I want this, and I will definitely go in and swatch this, because when your cheekbones look dewy, they pop so much more than if they look matte. They look just so much more defined, and the light hits it in a really pretty way. Also just makes your skin look healthy, juicy, and I'm down for a glass skin look. I love a glass skin look. You could go in with a soft matte foundation and apply this dewy stick on your cheekbones, and it will really make your skin look luminous and juicy while still keeping your problem areas that might have texture or be more oily, like your T-zone, matte. I also really like the fact that there is no glitter in this. I really don't like glittery highlights. I don't like my highlight to just look like it's sitting on the skin. I want it to look very glow from within. So this checks all my boxes on what I want a highlighter to be. Okay, next we have the Milk Cosmetics Rust Collection. This eyeshadow palette is really pretty. However, I will not be purchasing it because this colors is really basic, and I feel like I already have them in my collection. Okay, next thing that really caught my attention, and you know, I might entertain the idea of picking up, is the new Fenty Beauty cream bronzers and cream blushes. I love a good cream bronzer. I love a good cream blush. And you know what? I'm really interested in their cream bronzers. I know they have a contour shade in there that looks very ashy and cool toned, and it looks a little lighter than what I'm currently using, which is the Anastasia foundation stick in the color Mink. It is their foundation made in a special shade for contouring, which is very cool tone and ashy, just how a contour product should be. But I'd really just like to see how this Fenty Beauty one looks in person, and the finish of it too. I'm also interested in their cream bronzers. I currently use the Huda Beauty Tantour all the time in every look, and I like it a lot. It's a liquid to powder finish. However, I wouldn't mind changing it up. It's not like there's anything wrong with it, but I'd like to see if there's something better, you know, than that. So these Fenty Beauty bronzers and contour is really grabbing onto my attention. The blushes are pretty cute too. I could use a couple more cream blushes. I'll definitely swatch these in person because I live for a good cream bronzer and a cream blush. Okay, and next thing is this Charlotte Tilbury 4 quad eyeshadow palettes. The shades in each quad are really pretty. I really love the green color story, the pink color story, and the blue color story. However, I think these are like $53, and that is way too much for a quad. Like, that's only 4 shades for $50. That's over $10 per shade. And while they're probably very pretty and they probably look beautiful on the eyes, I don't think they're transformative shimmers like the Pat McGrath shimmers. Pat McGrath has like these transformative, beautiful shimmers that just look like water on your eyelids and that are so pigmented and so easy to work with that's why I think they're actually worth the money. I have all 3 of the Pat McGrath quads and I love them. However, I don't think these Charlotte Tilbury quads do the same as the Pat McGrath quads. I don't think they're really worth $53. Okay, next thing that kind of caught my attention is the Stila Double Dip Suede Shade and Glitter and Glow liquid eyeshadows. These are a pass for me because, like, you know what? They're a little bit gimmicky. Like, who's really going in with liquid eyeshadows? That's just like adding more work to eyeshadow. I feel like that's kind of hard to work with compared to just powder eyeshadows. I've tried their glitter and goes, and to be quite honest, they're so hard to apply. They look weird when you apply them on your eye. It is hard to get like a precise cut crease. It looks kind of messy. And then it's also hard to just get like that flawless, just like all over the eye application because they're also, the glitter and goes that I have, they're kind of patchy and they'll pick up on the eyeshadow you might have on your eye, and they're just hard to work with. Like, it's just unnecessary. Just get a good, nice, shimmery eyeshadow and you'll be good. Okay, we are coming close to an end. The next thing I have is the Patrick Ta Beauty Major Brow Tinted Shaping Wax in translucent and a tinted brown shade. I've always wanted to try out soap brows, so the fact that Patrick Ta is coming out with this is so cool. I feel like this is so Patrick Ta. All the models that he does have that like soap brow, and I wonder how this works. I wonder how long this lasts on your eyebrows. I wish he came out with a dark shade, like a black, because I don't know why people are scared of blacks. Like, if you have black hair like me, you need to use black eyeshadow products. Like, when I go in with like brown brow gels, yes, it like softens it up a bit, but it's very evident that I have like a brown brow gel. Like, you could see it on my black hairs. So I wonder if this brown would be very detectable on my eyebrows, but this clear is pretty interesting, and I definitely would like to try it out and see how the soap brow looks on me, because I have some pretty like nice fluffy brows, so I feel like this would really elevate them. Okay, so last but not least is this Pat McGrath Mothership palette. So this was a limited edition palette that has come back in stock, and I'm pretty sure will remain back in stock because Pat McGrath would be crazy if she wouldn't leave this as a permanent palette. I feel like a lot of Pat McGrath palettes have an interesting color story. They are definitely very thought out, but they have interesting colors that, you know, you wouldn't think of at first to have in like a smaller eyeshadow palette like that. But I think all their color stories are quite beautiful and well thought out. However, this palette is just one for the everyday basic gal that just wants some like cute gold pinks and brown. This palette, I'm pretty sure anyone that buys it is gonna fall in love with it, and this would be a palette that you can use every day because it's just so light, so natural. And you know what, if I wasn't unemployed right now, I would cop this $125 palette because I love Pat McGrath palettes. These shimmers are just everything. Like, I have never seen a shimmer compared to a Pat McGrath shimmer. Mostly in all the looks that I do, if I'm gonna use a shimmer, I go in with my Pat McGrath palettes, like, because they are just that beautiful. and that pigmented, and they literally just look wet on your eyes. This palette is absolutely gorgeous, and hopefully one day I can pick it up because I know I'd love it. So that is it, you guys. I feel like I talked about a lot of makeup, and a lot of it was interesting, and a lot of it just was kind of eh. I did leave out a lot of stuff on Trend Mood. I feel like I didn't touch a lot of the like passes. I feel like I only talked about a makeup that I was interested, but yeah, that is my thoughts on a lot of these new releases. I had fun just chit-chatting about makeup. I hope you guys liked this video, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.